Good afternoon, folks. Welcome. It's good to see folks. If you're joining us and others might continue to join in, we are recording this session and it will be posted so that those who aren't able to join us synchronously will have access to the material and the information after. Be mindful of that as we go through. So first, we just want to officially welcome everybody. I'm Kyla Ross. I am an assistant vice provost for advocacy and conflict resolution in my day job at Georgia Tech, and a former HAPS president, chair of the President's Emeriti now officially, and off of the board now. And I'm here with my co-leader, Elizabeth. You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Elizabeth Pennyfather O'Brien, and I am an instructor at Medicine Hat College in Medicine Hat, Alberta, Canada. And I have been with HAPS for 19 years now, and was chair and board Western Regional Director for a while. And right now I'm taking a break from those pieces and concentrating on the HAPS Leadership Academy with Kyla.
So Elizabeth and I started the HAPS Leadership Academy several years ago now. I guess we're on our third cohort this coming up this spring. We're very excited about this. So the purpose of today's session is to tell you a little bit about the Leadership Academy if you haven't heard about it already. Give some details about what it's all about. What we've learned from our previous cohorts and how it's structured, and then also give you some information about how you can sign up as soon as tomorrow when the registration goes live. So before we begin, we do want to give you a little bit of history on where we've been. We did start this Leadership Academy 3 years ago. We based a lot of the programming initially on a program that I had the benefit of going through at Georgia Tech, which is called the Inclusive Leaders Academy. And so we've modeled a lot of that, the activities that we do in the HAPS Leadership Academy off of those same activities that we did in the Inclusive Leaders Academy, and so many folks at Georgia Tech have gone through. And we're excited that we've had 2 cohorts successfully go through the HAPS Leadership Academy, and we've put a little bit of information up here just so you can kind of get a feel for who, kind of the breadth of participants. It is a cohort model and capped in a relatively small amount at 35 HAPS members. We had 34 go through our first, 19 universities, 15 colleges, and 2 countries represented. And then in last year's cohort, we had 35 members, 18 universities, 17 colleges, and 3 countries. I think in our 2023 cohort, Elizabeth, correct me if I'm wrong, we had a 12-hour difference, right? We had someone who was joining in from Hawaii synchronously, and someone who was in Eritrea? Estonia. Estonia. So 12 hours difference between those 2, which was pretty fun. And Caitlin, if you want to scan through, we even put a few snapshots and pictures so you can kind of see us. This is what it looked like over our couple of cohorts. Just a few members there.
Okay, so why we started this is one of the things that Kyla and I have been.
Oh, you didn't hear me? I was whispering.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I did. I just.
Oh. Okay, so when Kyla and I, we got to know each other through work on some committees. We both noticed that we had interest in professional development as far as leadership goes, and we started talking about that, and then we started presenting at HAPS, the HAPS conferences about it. And so we ended up having this mutual interest in designing programs specifically for human anatomy and physiology educators. And that's something that the HAPS organization had decided through strategic planning that it wanted to support. and we just happened to, find something that aligned well with what we wanted to do, what HAPS wanted to do, and give, some professional development opportunities to people who might not otherwise have that ability. We want to, make sure that we have models and practices that keeps the community inclusive, and that inclusivity goes into the classroom and into professional and private relationships. And one of the things that we've been able to do is fund a lot of this through donor funding from HAPS members to HAPS members, as well as ADI. And so it's, it kind of all came together, and people have been very interested in it and supportive of it.
So we're going to talk a little bit about what the program entails, just for those who might be interested in signing up and participating. You want to know what you're getting into. And there are several phases of the work. The first focuses a bit on the community aspect and cohort model. So part of this is building a community. There are 35 members that can participate. And we're together for the spring semester on a weekly basis. And we are doing a lot of self-exploration. So the first phase is that community building piece and learning about our strengths. So every participant in Leadership Academy has access to a Clifton Strengths assessment, and they do that as pre-work. So it's an online assessment that comes to your email, your answer about the questions that are asked, and then you are receiving a report that gives you your top 5. And we'll talk about your top 5 strengths and give you kind of a flavor for what that looks like. In that kickoff session, the first time together, it's a chance to meet folks. And we're inviting people to introduce themselves, talk about why they're there, what they're hoping to get out of the program, what are they concerned about with the program. And it's really in order to build a community and a cohort, because we're together for the next, forget however many number of weeks, but basically the spring semester together.
Yes.
Yeah. Next slide.
Okay, so after that, oh, sorry. Did you want to continue? Oh, okay. After that first session, and you've done all the pre-work on your strengths assessment, we get 2 sessions with facilitator for Clifton Strengths, Carolyn Dotz. And we look at and go into kind of a deeper dive about our strengths and our self-reflection, and how, the program is built off of, you can work on your weaknesses all you want, and you might not get as good leverage with them as if you take advantage of the strengths that you already have. And so she takes us through that, our assessments, and we get to reflect and ask questions and see how those assessments are similar but yet different. So every assessment is tailored to you as a specific person, and it's based on a whole number of strengths, and they're all in different orders. And so it looks at all your strengths together and puts an assessment together just for you.
So here's an example of what a top 5 might look like. So once you've done your pre-work and your assessment and you're getting your report, you're given what are your top 5 strengths. So this is my example. My top 5: restorative learner, strategic communication, and achiever. What's really great about this sample report that you see is that it's personalized for me based on my responses. And even though someone else might have, say, learner or even communication in their top 5, that order of all of the strengths, even those that aren't included in this top 5 assessment, are taken into consideration when that report comes out. So I've highlighted a couple of things, and this is the exercise that we take people through as you get your top 5 assessment. And then we're asking you to read it and see what resonates with you, and highlighting the terms or the phrases that makes you, that really resonates, right? Like, hey, this really describes me, right? Or maybe you'll highlight something, hey, I don't think that that's quite right. Maybe a little bit of a tweak there, but it's at least a lot of self-awareness and reflection. I can tell you personally, reading these top 5, and Elizabeth knows me extraordinarily well, so she can definitely say that these are really spot on. You know, this idea of I need to fix things and I want to get curious and study, and you know, that's the restorative part of me. And we even talk about what does that look like when your strengths run too hot, right? Like, I like to restore and I like to fix, and I might be inclined to find problems to fix because I just like to fix them so much. And that is something that I have to be mindful of, right? Because not everything needs to be fixed. But you get to explore that. And we create a safe space for you to explore that and come to those realizations in this academy.
So just, you know, to show you another example, these are my top 5. And so, you know, learners, my top theme. And again, highlighting to, you know, things that pull out. Part of my background is I'm an archaeologist and a bioanthropologist. So, you know, it resonates that I'm intrigued by the past and its people. And, you know, when my learner runs too hot, I want to get all the knowledge that I can possibly get before a decision's made. So I have to really end up, you know, tampering that and saying, okay, when is it enough? And, you know, how it's kind of like qualitative research. When do you have enough data so that you are just duplicating what you already know?
Another reference that we get, which is really helpful, and this is really kind of pointing back to what I was mentioning with when things run hot, we get these quick reference guides. And you'll notice that there's some color coding here, and there are different categories of strengths. So there are some executing strengths, or influencing, or relationship building, or strategic thinking. These are my top 5. So restorative learner, strategic communication, and achiever. You can see which categories those fit into, right? But what's really great about this quick reference guide is that there's also not only a description of that, but there's a bring and a need, right? Okay, so as a restorative, in my strength, I bring courage and creativity to problematic situations, right? So I'm not going to shy away from the really difficult stuff. But what do I need? I need problems that must be solved, which means, again, I might be looking for those problems to solve, right? Where maybe I don't need to be looking for those problems. But that helps me understand what my motivations might be and helps me look out for that in different situations that I might find myself in. So there are these quick references for all of the possible strengths that people might find in their top 5. And this is a really great thing that you can kind of keep by your computer or at your desktop. And it's just an anchor and a reminder, and helps you kind of explore what you offer and what you can build, but then also what you might need to be looking out for as well. Elizabeth, you're on mute.
Thank you. But now we're moving on. Okay. So after we deal with the strengths, we move into the Neuro Leadership Institute Hive model sessions, The first one is on include, and this is a synchronous session that we have an NLI facilitator that brings us through the models, and you'll have 3, and I think they're now 1.5 hour sessions per week. And I believe we also have booked the same facilitator from the last 2 cohorts. So he knows our group really well, and he knows what information to bring to us that, you know, gets us really excited about this type of learning that we're learning about. And so the include model is really about the neuroscience of building smarter teams. And it's about getting evidence-based information put to you on inclusivity and techniques to help you become more inclusive. And so then the 3 sessions, the first one would be finding common ground, lifting people up, and then helping create clarity. And these are just, I think we've got more information about that on the next slide, but they're crucial sessions. I'm going to let Kyla talk about this slide.
Yeah, and just as a disclaimer here, we are sharing this information here for information purposes. This is proprietary information with the Neuroleadership Institute. So we're just giving a snapshot and sort of a sample of what it looks like when you are participating in some of these sessions. So HIVE is that high impact virtual experience. It's a synchronous session, and Elizabeth's right. It used to be 1 hour. In the last 2 cohorts, we've had 1 hour sessions, and we were just informed by the Neuroleadership Institute that through their research and refinement, they have decided to extend those to 1.5 hours. And they find that I think helps with some of the discussion. Inevitably, you're covering a lot of information, and it's fostering more engagement and discussion. So we're excited about that change. And I will just, as an aside, say that most of the time when we do these sessions, or when we've done these sessions the past 2 years, almost every single session, people stay on longer, or they'll say, "Oh, I wish we had more time." You know, here we were thinking initially, oh, I don't know how much time people will want to give. But when people are in these discussions, it's like you can't get enough of it. And you just want to keep discussing, which is a really interesting thing. So in include, it's the neuroscience of smarter teams. The premise is if we are not actively including, then we are unintentionally excluding. And so all of the work that we do in this HIVE and include is really around exploring these 5 domains of social threat and reward. And they have created a lot of memorable ways, things for us to be able to easily remember. And they have come up with this acronym, SCARF. And SCARF refers to status, clarity, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. And we use those 3 modules in order to explore those 5 domains of social threat and the SCARF model.
Okay, so one of the aspects to it is we get these documents along with it that you can keep beside you. Like some people have built little booklets to have them right beside you so you can easily access them. So this is an example from lifting people up and finding common ground. So it's all based in research. So you get a research summary with that. You get a practice tool, and this practice tool ends up giving you some guidelines. So, you know, the do less and do more. So do less being tough on mistakes, do more, see mistakes as a necessary part of growth. And they're just reminders that help you out when you just are kind of at a loss, and they're handy to have right beside you. Another one is an inclusive or the virtual conversation guide that you get. And it's like, just ways to be more inclusive when you're starting a conversation. So, that's, instead of just getting down to business, have a little bit of a conversation beforehand. So, instead of let's get started, just say, hello, everybody. Can you see and hear me? Just to make sure that everybody can. And sometimes it gives that little bit of extra interaction to feel more included.
So the next program that we do, once we've finished Include, which is the 3 sessions, right? That Hive model, we move into the second Hive model, which is the Decide, which is the neuroscience of breaking bias. And this also has, we've just learned, been extended to the 1.5-hour virtual sessions per week. And the premise here, again, very research-based and evidence-based, which is, I think, one of the things that we have found is most helpful for our A&P folks. I mean, people in our community, I think, really appreciate the research, and our facilitator, who's been with us for those 2 years and is coming on for the 3rd, is extraordinarily informed. And I feel like we could talk to him all day about the various research. And so he's really, really great at giving us all kinds of resources to back up the things that we're talking about. But it's research-based and evidence-based on bias, and it helps us label, mitigate. So there are 3 sessions: label bias, mitigating bias, and engaging others.
So an example of what we go through in this Decide is it gives you a way to label what biases are. Now, there's a whole number of biases that have been identified, but what this does is what neuroscience leadership has done has grouped different biases into 5 kind of categories. And it's the SEEDS model: similarity, expedience, experience, distance, and safety. And it kind of describes those biases and describes when they, the triggers, or when they tend to come into play. And then it gives you ways to recognize and then halt the bias and form another strategy. And so that you can, a lot of the times you have these practice pieces so that you can, if this comes up, I can do this. And so you have you're physically writing down some things so that you're preparing ahead of time for something that might happen. And then you already have a response rather than having to stop and kind of think about it. And so the SEEDS model is really useful because a lot of times you don't realize how easy it is to go into bias. And, it doesn't necessarily stop you all the time, but you can check it and you can look at it, and it makes you reflect on it.
Yeah, I want to add one other thing on this, because I have to say, Caitlin, can you go back to that? Yeah. One thing on this job aid, I have to say, of all the materials that I feel like we receive, this is the one, and it's a whole page. We've only just given you the top part of that, right? That's the one to me that has been most helpful and most memorable, especially in professional settings, because one thing that it does do on that job aid is it talks about the places where in your professional life, for example, serving on a search committee, then these are the things that might pop up, and this is how you might mitigate it. And it's extraordinarily practical and a great reminder. And again, it's a lot about self-exploration. When I look at that, I think, oh my gosh, I'm totally guilty of expedience bias. I just want to get it done, right? Like, I'm very task oriented and it's time sensitive and this feels good, and okay, let's go. And I just know that I have to keep that in check. And that's a great reminder. Okay, next slide. So this is again, very similar to what we talked about with Include. You get these additional tools, and Elizabeth was just talking about that sort of if then, practice guide, do less of this, do more of this. And it's always accompanied by a research summary that even has citations that you can continue to read more about if you want to dive into the research. There are lots of opportunities to practice and even encouragement of practicing with other members in the cohort or other members in your personal or professional lives too.
After that, we go into our storytelling, and that storytelling is one of the most people are a little bit more reserved about how this is going to be applicable to them. Again, we get it facilitated by Carolyn Dotz of Strength on Site. And she starts us off with discussing what are the elements of a good story. We get to work together to start developing part of our story. And then we work throughout the rest of the time to create the story. In the meantime, we will have kind of open sessions to focus on, kind of the storytelling aspect, sessions to help us practice some of what we've learned with both strengths and the include and decide models. And this really gets us into the place where, they really intertwine, because a lot of times, when you think about your strengths, they might lead to your biases. And, so you get a chance to reflect on that, and it ends up coming out in your story. And, usually it's a story of something that, I thought of the word, I can't think of the word, not recognize, something that you find that kind of led to change in your life. And it doesn't have to be monumental, because but it can be, or it can be subtle, that you've reflected on and it's caused change. And then we get people to get together, and last year particularly we had a lot of people kind of coming in and trying out the story and getting feedback on it, and people connected with one another to go through the stories. So I think the storytelling labs have developed a lot of reflection back. When people are done their story, they realize, oh, that was an extremely useful part of this, where I didn't think it might be. And I was a little bit, critical of it at first. So, this is kind of the rest of the program. And then we get the stories submitted so people can reflect on them and read them. And then we get together to kind of, we can't share with everybody, but we put people into smaller groups to share their stories in a storytelling circle.
We have the opportunity to meet in person. It's certainly not a requirement, but encouraged. And I found that there were quite a few folks that had never even been to a HAPS conference. They were first-time HAPSers, and they joined us in Albuquerque. And so this is a picture of our 2023 cohort that was present. And many of them, we're at the first timers breakfast, and they're seeing other members who they really had only seen on a screen, and yet they felt like they knew them extraordinarily well. So it was really moving and powerful experience, I would say, for all of these folks. And it was a great opportunity. And we will, again, in 2024, have the opportunity to meet in person and celebrate in St. Louis.
As with everything, we like to kind of evaluate how we're doing. And so we ask the people to share and give some reflection for us And also you have separate evaluations for the 2 neuro leadership hive models too. So they're going to ask information about it, and then we ask about the program as a whole. And so this is just some of the data that we've found that, and we've purposely asked questions about in the classroom and day-to-day interactions, because that's where most of us, live, is in that classroom environment. And we want to make sure that we're improving, we're giving opportunity to, for benefit in all areas of life.
Yeah, we're also interested in the program as a whole, and trying to understand how this is impacting people's sense of community within our own professional organization, how, if at all, this is impacting their ability to adopt inclusive practices and mitigate bias. Again, as Elizabeth said, Neuro Leadership Institute does their own separate assessments that we also have access to, that helps us and helps them really look at the programming for Hive, those 2, the include and the decide modules. So that's not actually covered in these assessments. But we're really interested also in how people, how this is impacting their ability to set personal and professional goals. We do emphasize that everything that we learn in the Leadership Academy is helpful, both about storytelling. We often find people telling very personal stories, because that's sort of where their mind goes as they reflect on these maybe transformational experiences and pivotal moments in their lives. It does sometimes bring up very personal things, which also in itself is pretty transformational.
So again, one of the questions we ask is, to what extent do you feel you are more effective in your professional role because of these strategies you learned in the HAPS Leadership Academy? And, it's nice to see on our little graph here that there's no not at alls. And there's quite a good chunk of, like 60% are feel very more effective or extremely more effective. And that's, it's good to see, because it's, it just tells us we're kind of on the right track, I think. Did you want to add anything, Kyla?
No, and just that last slide for data is, I think that as people reflect on the experiences, we often hear that it's been very impactful, and they highly recommend that to others. So that's a great endorsement. We like to hear that.
Just, we look at some of the comments, and, and we've pulled some of these out. We get more comments, but one of the things that we like to see here is that, say the second comment, I learned a lot, so I feel I cannot narrow it down to one thing. However, the reflection process that I went through in writing my personal narrative made me realize where I'm going with my career, or in my career. I'm not only teaching, but advocating for more equitable and accessible education environment. And it's, it's feedback comments like this that are, really important for, HAPS in general, and members of HAPS, that they feel that they can advocate more. This is, what HAPS is about.
Yeah, and I think that we also see comments like that first one come out quite a bit, where there's camaraderie, right? And make me feel like I belong. Definitely the cohort model and the sense of community is strong. And then also this idea that this is helping to impact positively people's impressions of themselves and reduce their sense of imposter syndrome, which we all struggle with. And I really also like that last quote, the process of writing and sharing a personal story made me feel stronger and more confident. And I think that back to maybe feels a little bit amorphous at first and is people struggle with a little bit, but just going through that process is really meaningful for folks.
Okay. And so we're here because the HAPS Board of Directors has approved the 2024 program. Yes, the cohort model is extremely important. And we've established a really good relationship with NLI and Strengths on Site. And they all give, different energy into the system. So Carolyn Dodds is really kind of upbeat and, and really builds you up. And so it's, it's a really a nice relationship, and it gives us a nice full rounded package for the program.
So registration opens tomorrow. We have opened it up already. For the past 2 years, we have had a wait list. So as soon as we open it up, people sign up. And for the past 2 years, we have had a number of folks that sit on the wait list. So we have given the people who were on last year's wait list an opportunity to sign up already. And that then officially opens to everyone else tomorrow. So Caitlin could probably give us a little bit more details, but I think right now we have 35 total spots available, and 4 people from our wait list last year have already signed up. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay. So we say applications are due December 15th or until spots are filled. In the last 2 years, those spots have filled very quickly. Caitlin knows the numbers of how quickly those fill. Do you want to tell us?
I mean, it's within like 2 or 3 days, so don't wait.
Right. So don't wait. The cost this year is $200 for people to sign up for the program. I do want to just let people know that is by no means covering the cost of the program. Okay, that is very subsidized by HAPS donations. There is an opportunity if you have professional development funds or you have the means to close the gap. That is an opportunity, but it's a minimum cost of $200. And we kick off that program in mid-January. We do meet Wednesday evenings, and we have all of the dates that we can share in it's up on our website, right? We can put the link in the chat, has all of the details of the specific dates that we meet. And then there's the opportunity to meet in person, not officially part of the program, but again, an opportunity for people who are able to travel to the conference in St. Louis, May 25th to 29th, to see folks in person.
Okay, we'll open it up to questions, and there's our email addresses in case you have questions you think of, once we're offline. So thank you for attending. We really appreciate your time and your interest, and we hope to see you at the Academy.
I have a couple of questions. Can I ask?
Yes, go for it, Soma.
Hi, nice seeing you all, everybody. First question I have, so what I understand from these, the major written assignment is that storytelling assignment, or do you have other also?
Yeah, we do so this often comes up as what's the work, right? What's the workload look like, right? And so there's the pre-assessment to do the Clifton Strengths, which is an online assessment before the program starts. And the expectation is that you're reading through the material that's given to you, and you're joining our synchronous sessions and engaging, and that you're writing that personal story and sharing that in a storytelling circle. Now, this isn't graded, right? And what I would say is that we understand that life happens, right? This is the kind of program that you get out of it as much as you put in. And we have folks who, clearly are spending quite a bit of time writing that story and putting that story together. And then we have folks who don't have a lot of time to put towards that effort. And that's okay. But we do want you to be there and present and engaged and do the best that you can.
So what I see from the calendar, that after the March session, about like kind of the month of April that's a gap. So is it for mainly to give time for that assignment? Is that?
Yeah, it's time for, well, also we tried to let it coincide with the busy end of the semester. So you had some extra time in there. And so that you could write, we still have scheduled, like we have sessions that we're either Kyla or I will be online. So you can kind of drop in, say hi, ask us questions if you want to arrange to meet other people in there at that time. If you need to, if you want to practice something that, say something happened at work and you wanted to practice going over something with, mitigating bias or something, that it's kind of that time to meet where there's no scheduled learning sessions or scheduled things to go on. So last year we had people that actually checked in every Wednesday. They were on, they just wanted to say hi, see how things were going. And, and then other people would come in and people would chat about their stories. And, it was just kind of a nice building environment. But it gives you that release time when we know that it's period.
So for
Busy.
so all the sessions are synchronized on every Wednesdays. What happens, say for instance, in case I miss one session, is there recording available for that session?
No, we're not. We do not record. We're not permitted to record to make up that material. You do get the job aids and the research summaries and the working guides, but you do not have a recording that you could go back and watch later.
Thank you. And what is the selection criteria? Is it first come, first serve?
It is. Sign up, pay the amount,
Okay.
join the cohort. Yeah, there's no selection beyond that. No application process.
Thank you so much.
When for being a member, you have to be.
You have to be a HAPS member. That's right.
Yeah.
But Soma, you're a HAPS member.
I just went into the link that Caitlin had provided, and in that link there be a separate link to actually do the registration, because there's nothing there now. But if I go there tomorrow, it will populate into that particular page.
Yeah, I have to wait until tomorrow because the priority registration ends today. So tomorrow, hopefully around 8 or 8:30 a.m., we'll have it up on the website.
Okay. And then to follow up on that, then I can have like my purchasing department send a payment after I don't actually have to pay, like at the moment of registration.
You just have to pay before, I believe,
I think so, like,
before like
14th
January something. Yeah, before it
Yeah.
starts. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know, Caitlin, if you want to talk a little bit more about how the invoicing works for people who are going through and actually getting that through their institutions.
Yeah, so you'll fill out the form, and then Will and I, who work at the headquarters office for HAPS, will get the submission. And then as they come in, we'll start sending an invoice through the HAPS website. So you'll see it come directly from HAPS website to you. And then we'll follow up with you to just confirm that you are, obviously the invoice will tell you you're a part of the program, but we'll also send a follow-up email saying, congratulations, you're a part of the cohort. Payment is due by X date. And then if there's any additional requirements or changes you need for that invoice to submit it to your department, we can make those changes for you.
And it looks like there's a chat. Is it Rania? Is that how you pronounce your name, Rania? Yes. Okay, perfect. So talk a little bit about mentoring opportunity after completion of the program. So this is something that is new and still in development. So we've heard from the last two cohorts, especially the last cohort, that there was an interest in folks staying involved and getting more involved after they've completed the program. So we're still trying to explore what that looks like. One thing that certainly will likely be the case is when we have those drop-in opportunities in sessions, that the mentors could help and assist with that. So we're just still exploring that. So stay tuned. Elizabeth, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
No, you said it perfectly. Thank you.
Any other questions? We're all super excited about the Leadership Academy. Woohoo!
Woohoo. It is, it's a lot of fun. You know, sometimes,
It is
yeah,
a lot of fun.
yeah,
It's a lot of fun. So much fun that Elizabeth and I are doing it for the third year in a row and spending all of our Wednesday nights in the spring semester hanging out. It's so much fun.
yeah.
I feel
Just
like,
the people we meet, right? You
Right.
know, and they're not all the people that always go to the meetings or are always on the town halls. It's just a huge variety from all different areas, and it gets exciting to see what people are doing.
yeah, and it also gets really exciting to see how people shift and change careers personally. I will say, and I mentioned that, you know, it was based on for me personally, that program at Tech was very transformational, and has led me into the career that I'm in today. And it was, I think, transformational in leadership in HAPS as well. And so we're seeing a number of people who are participating in the program and then wanting and getting more involved in leadership in their own institutions or in HAPS. But this will be the fourth time that I've seen this content. And every time I feel like I walk away with something new. So it never gets old. It's always exciting.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you again for taking time out of your day and joining us and being interested in the program. And I hope to, see you soon.
Thanks so much.